Most people think aging is something that happens to you gradually, predictably, and mostly after 60. But the science tells a very different story. Because aging is not just a number. It is a biological process happening inside your cells right now, and for a significant number of people, that process is running faster than it should. A 2021 study published in Nature Aging found that biological age and chronological age can differ by as much as 15 years in either direction. That means a 45-year-old can have the internal biology of a 60-year-old, and a 60-year-old can have the biology of someone 15 years younger. The difference is not luck. It is driven by specific, measurable, and largely reversible factors. Today, I want to walk you through 12 signs that your body may be aging faster than your birth certificate suggests. Not to alarm you, but because the earlier you recognize these signals, the more powerfully you can respond to them. And if this kind of evidence-based health content is useful to you, it would mean a lot if you subscribed. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel reach more people who need this information. Let us start with something almost everyone has experienced, but very few people connect to accelerated aging. And I want to be honest with you about something before we go further. These signs are not rare edge cases. Several of them are present in the majority of adults over 40. Which means the real question is not whether they apply to you, it is how many of them do. You wake up after a full night of sleep and you still feel tired. Not just a little groggy, genuinely unrefreshed, like the sleep did not do what it was supposed to do. Most people blame stress or a busy schedule, but a 2019 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that persistent, unrefreshing sleep is one of the earliest and most consistent markers of mitochondrial dysfunction, and mitochondrial dysfunction is one of the core biological drivers of accelerated cellular aging. Your mitochondria are the tiny structures inside your cells that produce energy. When they begin to decline in efficiency, your cells produce less energy, repair themselves more slowly, and age faster. Waking up tired is not a lifestyle problem. It is a cellular signal. The second sign is one that tends to get dismissed as normal. You recover more slowly than you used to. Maybe you had a busy week and it takes you the entire weekend to feel human again. Maybe a single late night leaves you depleted for 2 days. Recovery speed is a direct reflection of your body's ability to clear inflammation, repair tissue, and restore hormonal balance. A 2018 study in Aging Cell found that slow recovery from physical and cognitive stress was significantly associated with shortened telomere length, and telomeres are the protective caps on your DNA that directly measure biological age. The shorter they are, the older your cells are behaving. If your bounce-back time has increased noticeably over the last few years, your biology is telling you something important. Now here's something I want you to hold on to as we go through the rest of this. Each of these signs on its own might feel minor, but when several of them appear together, the pattern they form is one of systemic biological acceleration. To keep count as we go. The third sign is one that almost nobody associates with aging. Your skin heals more slowly than it used to. Small cuts, scratches, and blemishes that would have disappeared in a few days now linger for a week or more. Skin healing speed is a direct proxy for cellular regeneration capacity. Your skin replaces itself roughly every 4 weeks in a young, healthy body. But a 2020 paper in the British Journal of Dermatology showed that this cycle slows measurably as the biological age increases, and that people with accelerated biological aging show this slowdown a decade or more before their peers. Your skin is essentially giving you a visible window into what is happening at the cellular level throughout your entire body. The fourth sign is one that tends to creep up slowly enough that people stop noticing it. Your memory and mental sharpness are not what they were. You forget words mid-sentence. You walk into rooms and cannot recall why. You read a paragraph and immediately lose the thread. Now, Some cognitive variation is normal, but a pattern of worsening mental clarity before the age of 60 is worth paying attention to. A landmark 2017 study in the Lancet Neurology found that cognitive decline associated with accelerated brain aging begins, on average, 15 to 20 years before any clinical diagnosis. And the drivers of that early decline are almost entirely metabolic insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, poor sleep, and high cortisol. Brain fog is not just tiredness. It is often a metabolic signal reaching your brain. The fifth sign is one most people write off entirely. You feel cold more easily than you used to. Your hands and feet are often cold even when the room is warm. Cold intolerance, particularly in the extremities, is a classic early indicator of declining thyroid function and reduced peripheral circulation. Both of these are associated with accelerated metabolic aging. Your thyroid governs the speed of almost every metabolic process in your body. When it begins to underperform, everything slows down, including cellular repair, energy production, and the maintenance of healthy vascular tone. A 2022 study in the Journal of Clinical Medicine found that subclinical thyroid dysfunction was present in a significant proportion of adults who reported feeling cold frequently, and that it was strongly correlated with markers of accelerated biological aging on blood panels. The important word there is subclinical, meaning it does not show up on a basic TSH test alone. A full thyroid panel, including free T3 levels, is often needed to see it clearly. I want to pause here for a moment and say something that I think matters. None of these signs are inevitable. Not one of them is a sentence. They are signals from a biology that is responsive to what you eat, how you move, how you sleep, and how you manage the load you carry. We are going to come back to what you can do about all of this, but first, let me show you the remaining signs, because a few of them are ones almost nobody is talking about. The sixth sign is poor grip strength. This one surprises people. But grip strength is one of the most well-validated biomarkers of overall biological aging in the scientific literature. A 2015 study in the Lancet followed nearly 140,000 adults across 17 countries and found that grip strength was a stronger predictor of cardiovascular mortality than blood pressure. Your grip reflects the health of your skeletal muscle. And skeletal muscle is not just about physical strength. It is your body's primary glucose disposal organ, your largest reservoir of metabolic health, and a key regulator of hormones involved in tissue repair and longevity. Muscle loss begins earlier than most people realize. It can start in your 30s, and it accelerates silently until it becomes visible. A simple test you can do right now is to try opening a jar or gripping something firmly and noticing whether it feels noticeably harder than it did a few years ago. That reduction in force generation reflects real changes happening in your muscle fibers at the cellular level. The seventh sign is increased sensitivity to alcohol. If 1 or 2 drinks now leaves you feeling rough the next day, in a way it simply did not 5 or 10 years ago, your liver's detoxification capacity has likely declined. Your liver processes alcohol using enzymes, and the efficiency of those enzymes is directly tied to mitochondrial health and cellular energy production, both of which decline with accelerated biological aging. A 2019 study in hepatology found that liver biological age measured through functional markers ran consistently ahead of chronological age in adults who showed other markers of metabolic dysfunction. If your tolerance has dropped noticeably, it is worth considering what that shift is actually reflecting. The eighth sign is one that most people consider cosmetic. You are losing hair, or your hair has changed texture significantly. Thinning hair, increased shedding, or hair that has become drier and more brittle can all reflect declining levels of key hormones and micronutrients involved in cellular regeneration. Specifically, low ferritin, declining estrogen or testosterone, and reduced thyroid function, all present through hair changes before they show up clearly on standard blood panels. A 2021 review in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences found that hair follicle health is a sensitive early indicator of systemic, hormonal, and metabolic aging, often preceding other clinical signs by several years. Your hair is not just cosmetic, it is a readout of your internal biology. The ninth sign is disrupted sleep architecture. Not just difficulty falling asleep, but waking between 2 and 4 in the morning, regularly, and without an obvious cause. This specific pattern, early morning waking, is strongly associated with elevated evening cortisol and disrupted circadian rhythm regulation. Both of these are hallmarks of biological aging at the hormonal level. A 2016 study in the Journal of Sleep Research found that adults who regularly woke in the early hours showed significantly higher inflammatory markers and lower levels of growth hormone, a hormone critical for tissue repair and cellular maintenance compared to those with consolidated sleep. Your sleep architecture is one of the most sensitive windows into the health of your hormonal system. The 10th sign is one that tends to be noticed but rarely investigated. Your digestion has changed. Bloating that was not there before. Foods that used to agree with you, now causing discomfort. Slower gut motility, meaning things simply do not move through as efficiently as they once did. These changes reflect a shift in your gut microbiome and a decline in digestive enzyme production, both of which are directly linked to systemic inflammation and immune aging. A 2022 paper in Nature Reviews Gastroenterology found that gut microbiome diversity declines with biological aging, and that this decline is independently associated with increased inflammatory signaling throughout the body. Your gut is not just a digestive organ. It is a major regulator of your immune system, your mood chemistry, and your systemic inflammatory load. In fact, approximately 70% of your immune system is housed in your gut lining. When that environment deteriorates, the downstream effects reach every system in your body. And here's the part I really want you to hold on to before we get to the final two signs. Everything we have discussed so far, the fatigue, the slow recovery, the cognitive changes, the sleep disruption, the gut changes, they are all connected. They are not separate problems requiring separate solutions. They share common upstream drivers. And that is actually good news, because it means that addressing those drivers moves multiple markers at once. The 11th sign is a change in your body composition. That has happened without a clear change in your diet or activity level. You are carrying more fat around your middle than you were a few years ago. Your muscle mass feels reduced. Your waist circumference has crept up. This specific pattern, central fat gain with muscle reduction, is called sarcopenic obesity, and it is driven by a combination of declining testosterone and estrogen, rising insulin resistance, and increasing levels of inflammatory cytokines, proteins secreted by visceral fat that accelerate cellular aging throughout the body. A 2020 study in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that the combination of reduced muscle mass and increased central adiposity was one of the strongest predictors of accelerated functional aging in adults between 40 and 65. The 12th sign is one that I find particularly telling because it lives at the intersection of biology and psychology. You have less tolerance for stress than you used to. Things that would not have bothered you 5 years ago now feel genuinely overwhelming. Your emotional recovery from difficult situations takes longer. Your patience is shorter. This is not a character change. It is a neurobiological one. Chronic, low-grade inflammation and elevated cortisol directly impair the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for emotional regulation, patience, and perspective. A 2018 study in neurobiology of aging found that inflammatory biomarkers were significantly elevated in adults who reported increased stress sensitivity, that these markers were independently associated with accelerated brain aging. Your emotional resilience is a biological measure, not just a psychological one. And if you have noticed this shift in yourself, it is worth taking seriously, not as evidence that something is wrong with you, but as evidence that your biology needs support that it is not currently getting. So what do you do with all of this? Because understanding is only useful when it leads somewhere. And I want to be specific here, because generic advice like eat better and sleep more does not move the markers. What moves the markers is targeted action on the exact drivers we have been discussing. So let me give you 6 actions grounded in the evidence that you can start implementing this week. The first and most impactful thing you can do is reduce your dietary sugar load, particularly liquid sugar. Fructose from sweetened drinks, fruit juices, and processed foods is processed almost entirely in the liver and drives insulin resistance faster than almost any other dietary factor. Replacing sweetened drinks with water, unsweetened coffee, or green tea removes one of the most consistent accelerants of biological aging from your daily routine. The second action is to protect your skeletal muscle actively and deliberately. Resistance exercise, even bodyweight resistance exercise 3 times a week, has been shown in multiple studies to directly slow biological aging markers, including telomere attrition, inflammatory cytokine production, and mitochondrial decline. A 2022 meta-analysis in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that resistance training was the single most effective lifestyle intervention for reducing biological age markers across adults between 40 and 70. You do not need a gym. You need consistent, progressive loading of your muscles. And you need to start now, not when the signs become more pronounced. The third action is to take your sleep architecture seriously, not just the hours, but the quality. Removing alcohol in the evening, keeping your room cool and dark, and avoiding screens for 45 minutes before bed have each been independently shown to improve deep sleep stages. The stages where growth hormone is released, cellular repair occurs, and the brain clears the metabolic waste products that accumulate during the day. The fourth action is to get a comprehensive blood panel that goes beyond standard markers. Ask your doctor to include fasting insulin, a full thyroid panel, including free T3 and reverse T3, ferritin, homocysteine, and a high-sensitivity CRP test. These markers give you a genuine picture of biological aging that standard annual blood tests simply do not provide. Knowledge of your baseline is where meaningful intervention begins. The fifth action is to address your inflammatory load directly. The single most powerful dietary shift for reducing systemic inflammation is increasing your intake of omega-3 fatty acids through oily fish, walnuts, flaxseed, or high-quality supplementation. A 2021 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that omega-3 supplementation over 4 months measurably reduced inflammatory markers and was associated with a slowing of telomere attrition in adults over 50. And the sixth action is to manage your cortisol rhythm deliberately. This does not mean eliminating stress. That is neither possible nor desirable. It means creating consistent daily anchors that signal safety to your nervous system. Morning light exposure within 30 minutes of waking, a consistent sleep and wake time, and even 10 minutes of deliberate slow breathing in the evening have all been shown in clinical studies to improve cortisol rhythm and reduce the inflammatory cascade that chronic stress dysregulation produces. Here's what I want to leave you with. Biological aging is not a fixed trajectory. The research is genuinely clear on this, and it is one of the most hopeful things I can share with you. The hallmarks of accelerated aging, shortened telomeres, mitochondrial decline, chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, hormonal disruption, are all responsive to the inputs you provide your body. Not perfectly and not overnight, but meaningfully, measurably, and sometimes remarkably quickly. You do not need to overhaul your entire life. You need to move the right levers consistently over time. A 2023 study in Cell Reports Medicine followed adults who made structured lifestyle changes, targeting the drivers we have discussed today. Within 16 weeks, the majority showed measurable improvements in biological age markers, not just in how they felt, in the actual molecular indicators of how their cells were aging. Your body is not failing you. It is responding to its environment exactly as it is designed to. And every one of the 12 signs we discussed today is a signal, not a verdict. The biology that created the acceleration is the same biology that can reverse it when you give it what it needs. That is not optimism. That is what the evidence consistently shows. If this gave you something to think about, or something you recognize in your own body, I hope it also gave you a place to start. There is a great deal more to cover on this channel. New videos go up regularly on exactly these topics. The evidence, the mechanisms, and the practical steps that actually move the markers. Subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next. And if this video helped you, please give it a like. It genuinely helps more people find this content who need it. I will see you in the next one.